This program is sponsored by Dave Stahl. It's time to get educated on your Second Amendment rights. Welcome to 2 full hours of Gun Owners Radio. Your hosts Dave Stahl, Joe Dramisi, and Michael Schwartz will teach you about firearms, self-defense, and the laws that affect your rights to keep and bear arms. Visit gunownersradio.com with questions to learn how to become a sponsor of Gun Owners Radio and get involved. Together, we will win. Now here's your hosts, Dave Stahl, Joe Dramisi, and Michael Schwartz on The Answer San Diego.
All right, folks. This segment is sponsored by John Dillon at Dillon Law. Oh, wait a minute. You didn't have that in my script. This is FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
This is Gun Owners Radio, and this segment is sponsored by John Dillon and Dillon Law Group. Got legal matters that involve anything gun-related? Call attorney John Dillon. Got problems involving these new red flag laws? What about gun registration questions? Well, gun transportation questions. Well, maybe you aren't sure that your gun complies with California law. You need to call our trusted firearms attorney, John Dillon. John Dillon is right here in Carlsbad and specializes in California gun laws. Give him a call at 760-642-7150, or you can go to his website at DillonLawGP.com. Well, welcome to Gun Owners Radio. We have a full show for you, but before we start, we need you to support our sponsors. What do I mean by that? Go look at the website and of every one of our sponsors. Even if you don't buy, help us by checking them out. Mike, wasn't Friday the big day for the magazine law decision? The Attorney General had until Friday to appeal it, right? What happened?
So, yes, we had, of course, a big decision in the magazine ban. It was in our favor. So a panel of 3 judges said that, yes, banning magazines is unconstitutional. But then they had the state had a few weeks until Friday, actually, August 28th, to figure out what they were going to do. Are they going to appeal it? Are they going to request an en banc? Are they just going to let it stand? And people wonder, well, gee, if there was already a ruling, why didn't it go into effect immediately? And I kind of tell people the analogy I use is it's like when you're playing poker, and you lay down a bet. Well, everybody on the poker table gets to make a move before it's finalized, right? You don't just flip your cards over immediately, or someone doesn't just win automatically, right? Everybody gets to place their bet. You get to go around. You get to raise and call.
Or fold,
do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing in court. So we had until the 28th, which was Friday. We had until the 28th for the state to decide, well, what are they going to do? Are they going to raise? Are they going to fold? Or what are they going to do? Well, what they decided to do was request an en banc. And what that means is, so there was the first decision was in our favor, and that was one judge, Judge Saint Benitez, right? And he ruled in our favor and said, yep, it's unconstitutional. Then it went to 3 judges, and 2 of the 3 judges agreed and said, yes, Saint Benitez is absolutely.
So that's 2.
That's 2 decisions in our favor.
Okay.
So now they want 11 judges to view it. They may or may not get an en banc. They probably will, but they may or may not.
Who makes that decision?
Ninth Circuit's court.
They'll make the decision whether they want to see it or not, or listen to it.
Just put it in front of. They're going to make the decision on whether or not it goes in front of 11 judges.
Gotcha.
Probably will. There's a slim chance that they'll say no. It'll probably go in front of 11 judges. And then those 11 judges will make a decision and the majority rules.
And then who does it go to?
Then the loser gets to decide if they want to appeal it to the Supreme Court.
But there's no guarantee the Supreme Court will listen to it.
There's none of this is guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. There's no guarantee they'll get an en banc. There's no guarantee it'll go in our favor. There's no guarantee that they'll even appeal it. There's no guarantee that the Supreme Court. None of this is guaranteed.
Right.
In fact, we didn't even know the timeline on when they're going to decide if they get an en banc. This could take months. It could take years.
Really?
Hey, Michael, do you know the process or the procedure for the en banc? Like, is there a chief justice that makes the decision, or is it a group of them that decide we're going to do en banc or we're not going to do it?
So it's I believe it's a majority vote. There are 29, I think, justices on the Ninth Circuit, and then the 11 judges would be randomly picked.
But all of them get the vote on we do want to hear this or we don't want to hear this?
You know, I'm not confident enough to
Okay.
to give you a
He hasn't got
sure
his
answer.
law degree handy.
But
Sorry to sandbag you there.
No, not at all. But I believe that they do vote on it in majority rules.
So Friday they didn't make a decision.
Right. Well, Friday they requested the en banc.
Okay, so where does that put the gun owner who wants to buy a magazine?
Excellent question. In essence, nothing has changed from last week. Nothing has changed from, so requesting an en banc hasn't changed anything. Now, what does that mean? That means that you cannot buy normal capacity magazines in California. You cannot have them shipped into the state. You cannot import them. You cannot receive them from somebody. You can own them. You can use them legally. You can take them to the range. You can carry them in your...
That's grandfathered magazines. Magazine that you've had, you've already owned prior to all of these decisions.
Better put, magazines that you have legally acquired and are using legally, you can... When
it was supposedly legal to do so.
Exactly right.
Okay.
So you can't buy them, you can't import them, you can't sell them, you can't acquire them.
So we're in limbo until such time as they figure this out.
Essentially, exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we did that all without a lawyer. I'm impressed.
But a big decision. This is a big deal. I know everybody gets frustrated, and they should get frustrated. But what they should get frustrated at is that we left this up to the courts. The courts shouldn't be our only solution. It takes a long time. It's a crapshoot. There are no guarantees. It's extremely expensive. And if it goes against us, it sets us so far back.
It's one more nail in the coffin.
Yeah, so that's what you should be frustrated with. We have a lot of arrows in our quiver.
What can consumers do to fight this? Can they reach out to their politicians?
Consumers can do a lot of things. First thing you can do is, as a consumer, you can support your local shops. You can, by making sure that you buy every little gun thing you can through a local mom and pop shop. A shop that where the owner is behind the counter. Support local shops because they're helping to fight this, and in effect, if you support them, then you're supporting their fight. Voters, make sure that you follow our voter guide. San Diego County Gun Owners has a voter guide. Make sure that you'll elect people based on their Second Amendment issues. Make sure that they know, hey, I am voting for you based on your Second Amendment stances and on Second Amendment issues. And make sure that you know your representatives.
Well, and even farther than that, it's not enough just to vote. It's you really need to get involved. Get involved with groups like us, with San Diego County Gun Owners.
$10 a month.
Other groups.
$10 a month. Come on, you can't even buy lunch for $10.
Yeah, you really need to get out and help and get involved because the other side is very involved.
Yesterday we had another shooting social where we taught, I think it was 18 brand new shooters, people that had never touched a gun before, or maybe very, very new. And we paired them up with people. I saw people jumping up and down with happiness. It was so successful.
Really?
So these things that we do, this is when we say get involved. Yes, we need your $10 a month. We're trying to get people elected, and money's the mother's milk of politics. But there's so much more you can be involved with. We have so many different programs, and like again, yesterday was a real good example. Our shooting socials, helping to support these candidates, getting involved in their campaigns and races. There's so much to be done. But the worst thing you can do is sit back and do nothing, or just read about a court case
and then complain.
There's no good. You could read for all weekend. You could spend all weekend reading about this court case. Nothing will result
if you don't do something.
Yeah, you have to do something effective. Right. So.
And everything from a little to a lot. That's totally up to you as to what it is that you want to do.
Yep, your dime and your time.
That's it, boy. That's a good one. The dime and your time. I like that. I'll have to remember that. Well, I tell you what, there's a whole lot more. By the way, we got 2 hours today. Actually, an hour and 45 minutes. So
next up, John Correia, everybody. Stay around and listen to John Correia from Active Self-Protection. Wonderful guy. You know him from YouTube, and we're going to interview him next.
I can't wait. Right here on Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
right, folks, welcome back to Gun Owners Radio on FM 96.1 AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right, what's the best defense for self-defense and those horrible new red flag laws? Firearms Legal Protection. That's right. Firearms Legal Protection is a legal defense program for lawful gun owners with a 24/7 emergency hotline. Let them provide the lawyer for you. Call Firearms Legal Protection today. That's Firearms Legal Protection at firearmslegal.com. Or you can call them at 469-310-9100. That's 469-310-9100. All right, Mike, you want to introduce our special guest?
Absolutely. One of my favorites, John Correia with Active Self-Protection, has a really, really, really cool YouTube channel where he analyzes defensive gun use situations, typically from like security cameras and that sort of thing, and then walks you through it and says, hey, here's some of the things that he did right, here's some of the things he did wrong. But he is much better at explaining what active self-protection is than I am. So without further ado, John, are you there?
I am. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man. How's it going?
Every day's a holiday, bro. Every meal's a feast. How are you?
That's a guy after my own heart. Trust me.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. I get it. You're just absolutely my favorite guest. You're my wife's favorite guest. I swear she doesn't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she doesn't listen to anybody else about guns except you.
Yeah,
well, I mean,
she don't even listen to us.
Pretty serious.
Yeah, she don't even listen to us. Trust me.
So that's a big responsibility. Every once in a while, we'll be driving around or something like that, and she'll say, well, you know what John said? And then I get a lecture on what John Correia said, and it's always good.
Go, I've told you that 47 times.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That was an even better idea back when it was my idea.
Right.
So tell everybody, I kind of, talked a little bit about what active self-protection does, but tell everybody a little bit about active self-protection, how you started, what you do.
Yeah, I mean, at its core, Active Self-Protection is a self-defense and firearms training company based out of Phoenix, Arizona. But what I'm known for, if anybody knows me, is that I have a large YouTube channel. I have two, actually, but the larger one called Active Self-Protection. People send me real-life surveillance videos of defensive encounters, armed robberies, carjackings, muggings, stabbings, home invasions, and I do after-action reports on them. So what I do is walk through the problem. This is what really happened to somebody in real life, in their real world, and here's what happened and how we can get better as self-defenders from it. Sometimes a good person comes out well, and we say, hey, here's all the ways that they did well. And sometimes they don't, and they say, here's some opportunities for improvement so that we don't have a similar negative outcome. So we put a new one up every single day. In addition to that, we do 2 badge cams a week. So we talk to twofold there to show our law enforcement viewers kind of what their world looks like and keep cops safe on the street. And then on the other hand, show the general public what the mission of law enforcement is and how it's different than a private citizen.
And out of all the blogs and videos and, trainers online, and honestly, your content and the things that you produce is by far the most useful information I think I've ever seen.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. We try to be.
Yeah, and it touches on something that people are just not well versed on, and that's the ethics and the legalities of lethal force. I think that's something you concentrate on a lot.
That's a big deal. We want people to do things the right way for the right reasons. You don't want to defend yourself immorally or illegally and end up in prison for 20 years. And to see a good person cross the line and become an offender and end up in prison, that just is a negative outcome. So we want people to do the right thing in the right way for the right reasons.
Well, and John, when I do the concealed carry seminars and things, when we're talking to people that are new to concealed carry, I always recommend your videos and suggest that they sign up for that and look at them, because it really is just some of the best information you can get out there, because there's so much to learn with the concealed carry and doing all that kind of stuff. And the gun is actually the small part of it. All the other stuff is what you really need to know, and your channel is just one of the best places out there for it.
I really appreciate that. I think, what I tell people for my serious concealed carriers, it's your daily warm-up. It's your daily, I get to stick myself in that situation, and how would I handle it, and am I ready for that problem? And so it's a daily mental warm-up, just like we'd say, you need daily dry fire to be ready to use your firearm effectively. You need a little daily mental rep, and that's where you get it.
So how many videos have you reviewed now?
Well, I've analyzed around 30,000 at this point, and there are about 2,500 between the YouTube channel and the older ones on our Facebook page that are analyzed and available for the public to learn lessons from.
So you've looked at over 30,000 videos of somebody in a situation where they're using a firearm defensively, and analyzed it from beginning to end, and that's produced, you said, about 2,500 videos where you go over those lessons. When you start, where did you acquire the information? Like, how do you know? Like, how do you know, all that you know? What kind of training did that require? Or what was your background there?
Well, I mean, I'm a training junkie, right? So people ask me all the time kind of where that came from. The funny one is when somebody says, well, John, why are you qualified to do this? Were you ever a cop or were you in the military? And I go, yeah, I was in the military for 8 years. And they go, okay, cool, you're qualified. And I go, keep asking questions, for gracious sakes. Because I was in the U.S. Navy for 8 years and I made hot water the hard way in Uncle Sam's Canoe Club. And it didn't prepare me at all for self-defense, right? So, but I work very hard to be highly qualified at what I do. So, I mean, the company started with me just getting NRA handgun certs and teaching people basic handgun skills. But I've, then worked hard. I mean, if you wanted to go through the laundry list, I'm a master firearms instructor, certified by multiple national organizations in handgun use. I'm one of the first Force Science Institute certified force science analysts who is not a sworn officer in the last 15 or 20 years. I am a Masada Youth Group Deadly Force Instructor certified instructor. I am a Law Self-Defense Verified Instructor graduate. So I'm also a training junkie. I have around 1,000 hours of instruction in empty-handed skill, in armed combat. And then I have a second-degree black belt in a derivative of Kempo known as Umas, and I'm also studying jiu-jitsu and those things. So, I'm just a training junkie, and over time you just build a body of knowledge. And really where kind of my uniqueness comes in is analyzing those real-life incidents. I started doing that just to make my own training more evidence-based so that I would know what are the things I really need to be able to know as a self-defender. And being able to say that and to say, well, I mean, gosh, from a private citizen's perspective, there's really nobody in the U.S. who has as big a database to draw from of this is how real-life defensive encounters go. Before we had this, kind of what we put together, we had a lot of anecdotes, or we had war stories. We had people who would say, this is, what I've heard, or I had an uncle who, but now we can say, no, this is what we see again and again and again, and this is what we don't see.
The simple answer to that question would have been, I have watched 30,000 videos.
Well, but on the other hand, you can watch a bunch of videos, and if you're not paying attention and you don't know the things that make the differences, then you don't really get much out of them. If you don't know what you're looking for and you don't know, I think some of that is the limitations of video. Some people watch a video and they think it shows them everything, and quite frankly, it doesn't. And if you don't understand the limitations and how it works and what it can show us and what it can't, so there's a little bit more to it than that.
I was just giving you a hard time.
Well, and I wanted to ask that question because I know the lessons learned in the videos that you present are outstanding, and they're extremely level-headed, and they're very consistent, and they're based in fact and based in law. And it cracks me up because every now and then when I'm on your YouTube channel and I'm watching a video, I look down in the comments section, which is just ridiculous, and every once in a while there's somebody on there who's arguing with you or
trying to anyway.
And I'm just like, wow, who must this guy be? You know
who that guy is.
And I always say too that just because someone's an expert doesn't mean they're always right. Experts make mistakes too, and Lord knows that I've disagreed with myself on occasion. But, by and large, I always say when you're looking at someone's opinion, ask if it's a qualified opinion.
Well, that's a humble thing to say.
There's a lot of things that I don't have a qualified opinion on. Doesn't mean I don't have an opinion. It's just not a qualified opinion.
Right.
So what do you think every gun owner out there, and maybe even more specifically, every CCW holder, everybody that carries concealed legally, what's your biggest piece of advice for them? What are they? What's something that most of them are doing incorrectly or should be doing more of? What's your biggest piece of advice? The
biggest thing that I have to tell people everywhere, all the time when they carry a firearm, is to live a lifestyle of de-escalation, escape, and avoidance. That the number one thing, if you carry a firearm on your person, is you have to remember that you bring with you the capacity to do deadly force. And because of that, you must live with a concept in your soul that says, I will avoid a fight if at all possible. Now, I'm ready for one if it comes, but I want to do anything I can to de-escalate a conflict, to escape, to just not have the fight, because every fight that I avoid is a fight that I've won.
Now, do you feel? I think that's excellent advice, and it's definitely something that has resonated with me. I've had a CCW for 2 years now, and it has it is life changing, and I don't mean that. I don't say that lightly. You really do start to think of situations that you're in very, very differently. Totally agree with that advice, and I think it's awesome, and people should really think about that and let it sink in. But what do you think CCW holders are making that mistake too often, or give us a grade on CCW holders?
I really think more that's online internet warriors who want to talk a big game, and people talk a big game in a lot of ways, and then in real life they'd never do that thing. But I think right now on social, especially, you're seeing a lot of people kind of, if somebody did that to me, then they would have a bad day because I'd shoot them 9 times. And I go, really, man? I mean, you really don't want to live that kind of way. And do I see people that make mistakes? Yeah, I do. I see people that they misunderstand what it means to use a firearm. Now, of course, we use a firearm only as a tool of last resort, because the consequences of not using it are so grave that we can't live with them. In other words, I'm going to be in the hospital or die, or my loved one is going to be in the hospital or die. And that consequence is so grave, I can't live with that, so I have to use my firearm here, because to otherwise use it, it's going to change your life forever to use a firearm.
And you could truly lose everything. You could lose your family, your job, your savings account, your freedom. You could lose everything but your life.
That's right.
Okay, so we're going to have you over into the next segment, John. But I just wanted to prepare everybody. We got another 30 seconds here. When we get into the next segment, we're going to talk about an extremely controversial subject this week, and that's what went on in Kenosha.
And wondering if you were going to do that.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to talk about the video that we have seen. We're going to talk about John's take on everything. There's some very specific questions I want to ask, and we're probably going to spend the entire next segment talking about Kenosha.
And let's break it down,
because it's that big a deal. But I want everybody going in to know, hey, you know what? We don't have all the facts. We're going to do our very best to talk about what we think we know now. And John's going to lead us through that discussion, and he's going to do a fantastic job. So stick with us, John, and stick with us, listeners, and we're going to come back and talk about what happened in Kenosha.
All right, folks, this is Gun Owners Radio on FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
There's more Gun Owners Radio with Dave, Joe, and Michael to come on The Answer San Diego. Welcome back to Gun Owners Radio, educating you on your Second Amendment right. Now, here are your hosts of Gun Owners Radio, Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz on The Answer San Diego.
All right, folks, welcome back to Gun Owners Radio. This is FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right, California assault weapon laws make it almost impossible to own an AR pattern rifle today. What's the solution? Cali Key. Cali Key converts any mil-spec direct impingement AR pattern rifle into a straight pull-bolt action rifle, so it can have all the features without being considered an assault weapon. It's a true drop-in solution. No milling, no aesthetic modifications, and no turning off your gas system. Keep your entire AR collection intact at a price you can afford with Cali Key. Check out Cali Key at CaliKey.com. That's KALIKEY.com. All right. Well, we've got our very special guest on the line, John Correia from Active Self-Protection. And, Michael, it's all yours.
Let's do it. So, John, I asked you earlier if we could talk about what happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin this week, specifically with the 17-year-old kid, Kyle, who was in the middle of a riot with an AR-15 and a medical bag. His in an interview just before the incident that everybody's seen most people have seen anyway. He said that he was there to protect some property and help people medically, which we actually saw some evidence that he was there to help anybody, rioters or whoever, patch things up. He apparently has had some medical training, some kind of first aid or first responder training. So it wasn't, he didn't just have some Band-Aids. It sounded like he did kind of know what he was doing, even though he was 17 years old. And he stated that he had his AR-15 because he was going to help people, even if it meant putting himself into harm's way. And that was his way to protect himself. Now, before we even talk, there's a lot of different levels to talk about. But I think that most people agree, and I think John and I agree, correct me if I'm wrong, John, there never should have been a 17-year-old kid there with an AR-15 in the middle of a riot. Period. Full stop.
Yeah, I think that I tell people all the time there's a difference between something being criminal and it being moral. So there's things that are immoral that are not criminal and vice versa. And there's also difference between things being moral and being wise. And I think that this falls into one of the unwise decisions. It wasn't criminal. It doesn't look like. I don't know. We're still in some kind of a discussion about the AR and whether he was legal to possess it at 17 in Wisconsin. But at the very least saying, hey, I'm going to go in here into a place that I know I need to have my AR-15 in order to defend my life, and I'm going to voluntarily go in there when I don't have to. It wasn't a wise decision. Now, do I expect 17-year-olds to always make wise decisions? No. That's part of being 17. But boy, I wish that somebody would step in there and said, hey, man, that's really unwise, and I honor your heart to want to help, but let's stay out of places where we're really pretty sure we're going to need an AR to protect ourselves.
And we don't know the circumstances, with him and his, parents. We don't know. I've heard a lot of things, but we don't know. So we're not going to comment on that. We're not going to get real deep into it. But I think most people would agree a 17-year-old with an AR-15 should not be at a riot. I think going a step further, John, I think that most people agree, and maybe fewer people agree, that nobody should be at a riot. If you're going to a protest, fine, but the second it turns into a riot, get out of there. If you're at a protest, it turns into a riot. I think that you're then, and you stay around. I think you're partially to blame for anything bad that happens because bad things happen at a riot. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on being at a riot in general?
I know, and I know several friends in the gun rights world that are like, well, John, they throw out the quote that the only thing that is required for evil men to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And I get that, but let's think through what the best case scenario was. He heard that there was a business, a car dealership that had been badly damaged, and he had sent out a call for help for people to protect his business. Okay, fine. I think there's some honor there in saying, well, I want to help a good person to protect their stuff. But if the guy's stuff is protected and nothing bad happens, okay, fine. Then what did you get out of that? You get the feeling that you did something good. But how many ways can that go bad? And this went bad. And Rittenhouse said that he went because that dealer put out that call for help. Now, is that man going to help him now with the aftermath? I really doubt it. He's going to disavow everything that he did, and he's on his own.
Now, there's a big part of me though that totally agrees with people who say, hey, we got to do something. Joe and I were talking about it, and the idea that there are protests that are really little more than violent riots. I mean, that really has appeared to be the purpose of some of these protests. They may have started off to be protests at the beginning, but now you're seeing people show up with baseball bats, and I mean purposely
trying prepared to fight, prepared
to destroy things. I think there's probably something to be said about hey, you know what? I'm an adult. I have the ability. I'm going to go down and help that person. But like you said, John, there's some serious consequences. There are potential serious consequences. and you got to be able to handle those serious consequences. And again, we go back to this 17-year-old kid. He's a 17-year-old kid. A 17-year-old kid can't handle the serious consequences of what could happen at a violent riot. I'm not sure how many people over the 18 can handle the serious consequences of what might happen at a violent riot. And so it's at least extremely controversial.
Well, to me, I think there's a big difference. We have a pattern for this already. You know, in the 92 Rodney King riots in L.A., we had a number of people in the Korean American community who, you know, there's a meme in the gun world about rooftop Koreans, you know, that guarded their property. But there's the key there. The word there that's the key is there. They guarded their businesses. They guarded their places of employment. And this is my place. And many of those people lived above their shops. And so they had nowhere to retreat to. Whereas I think what we're seeing today is we're seeing people travel in. And just like my friends who are not about the protests and not about the, you know, that side of things are angry when they see people busing in protesters and of course rioters from other towns. Well, then why are we busing in people from other places? If those folks feel like, hey, I have to protect my property and I'm going to be on my property with my guns, I think there's a moral thing there. When you say, no, I'm going to go drive somewhere else to someone else who I don't know, it's not my loved one, and protect their property and be ready for a protracted gunfight, I think that we have left the realm of smart. We've definitely gone to foolish.
So we've talked about the fact that it was a riot. We've talked about the fact that the kid was underage, and there's some other things that I think a lot of people would probably, you know, put a lot of conditions on the rest of the discussion. But let's get to the actual defensive part of the discussion. So the 17-year-old kid ended up shooting 3 people. 2 of them died. The first and second person died. The third person was severely injured. He was actually attacked by 5 people total. 2 of the people that attacked him physically, he didn't shoot. So let's just kind of start at the beginning. The first person, the video showed, again, correct me if I'm wrong, John, the video showed him running away from a guy with a red shirt wrapped around his head. There's video of that guy in the red shirt acting extremely aggressively before this happened. He's chasing him. He threw something at the kid. The kid kind of runs around a car, and then when he at some point, the kid with the rifle shoots the guy that was attacking him. Is that an accurate portrayal of what we're pretty sure happened?
Yeah, and there's a couple of cell phone videos, but of course they're grainy because it's dark, and we have, you know, differing ideas of. At one point, the guy with the red shirt threw something at him, and some folks initially said it was a Molotov cocktail. We're pretty sure now it wasn't. But you know, all that lead up and everything about that. Yeah, at some point he shot him, and there's some discussion about was that justified. Do you know enough? Have you seen enough to make a decision on whether or not it was justified? I don't think I have. I mean, generally speaking, I want to give every benefit of the doubt to the one who is retreating, which it looked like Rittenhouse was retreating in that moment, and that seems to be a reasonable thing to do. So he's retreating away from a guy, clearly doesn't want to fight that guy. That seems like a reasonable thing to do. But the question we don't know and we can't know right now is why did he shoot him? Now, his defense attorney has said, well, this guy, he felt like he was lunging for his rifle. Then, of course, the question becomes, was it reasonable at the distance that he shot him that he could have lunged in to take control of his rifle? Because, of course, you know, if he gets into control distance, now we're fighting over the rifle and he could easily kill me with it. But we don't have enough details to know that. And
it's fair. I think you bring up a good point. It's fair to say that if you get shot while chasing someone, the fact that you're chasing someone, you've lost some moral high ground there. You're probably that piece of it. You're going to get heavily questioned on. Hey, look, you know, you were chasing this person. You know, what was your intention? I mean, he wasn't going to run up and tickle him. You know, there was right. Well, and you could say so. We will never know why he was chasing him because, of course, he died. Right. And so we don't know. Now, what we do know, of course, now we're not talking about a court of law at this point because character doesn't matter in a court of law in a large sense. That's the Federal Rules of Evidence 404. But we know that Rittenhouse was a police explorer, that he was there, you know, doing anti-graffiti work, and that he seemed to be a good, sane, sober, moral young man.
So we want to kind of give the tie go to the runner there for sure. But again, from a perception perspective, we don't know exactly what he perceived in the moment, and we don't know what the perception of the other guy was, although there are some videos of him being pretty darn aggressive and pretty ugly before that. And so, I want to say my heart hopes that was truly a justified homicide. And if it was, well, then that makes a lot of sense about a lot of things, and I really hope it was.
So after that happened, the kid was seen. He made a phone call. He fled the scene, but then he was next seen on video about 2 or 3 blocks away, and he was being chased. And I honestly think it's reasonable. You heard some people say, "Hey, get him! He shot somebody." I truly believe that the mob that was following this kid, that was chasing this kid, I believe that they believed they were trying to stop an active shooter who was doing something illegal. I think I don't know that for a fact, but it seems like that was going on. He was tripped by somebody and fell to the ground. He didn't shoot that guy. He was kicked in the face while he was on the ground. He didn't shoot that guy. But then a third person started beating him with a skateboard, and he did shoot that guy. Now, in a vacuum, that appeared to be truly a clean defensive legal shot. Is that what's your take on that, John?
Yeah, for sure. I think that obviously at that point he's trying to evade, even if his first attack was not justified. Even if we say at the end that no, that first one was no good. A felon who is fleeing at some point recovers their innocence if their intent is to remove themselves from that. And so not innocence from the crime, but in other words, they're not a freshly fleeing felon. So he definitely was trying to get out of there and then was knocked to the ground. Somebody hitting you over the head with a skateboard, that's clearly apt to cause great bodily harm or even death. And so that's clearly a reasonable use of deadly force in that moment. The guy who ran up to him and pointed a gun at him, I mean, clearly in that moment, is it reasonable that Rittenhouse said, well, that guy is coming up on me and he has a Glock in his right hand and I need to stop him? Yes, that's the guy who he shot him in the arm and shot his bicep off. And so, those two are pretty much clearer cases where you say, okay, somebody who's running away. Now, when you said on the other side, is it reasonable that the mob, that these people could have perceived, wait a minute, that guy killed somebody, we need to stop him, and think they were doing the right thing? The answer to that is also yes, they could have perceived that. But that mistake can be pretty significant. Yeah. It doesn't remove his ability to protect himself.
You don't get to murder a murderer necessarily. Right. And so, the other thing, by the way, real quick, and then we actually got to go. We're over time, but this is fascinating. I love talking to you, John. But the third person, the guy with the Glock, I don't know if you noticed this, but he paused, and then the kid paused, and then the guy with the Glock started to attack again. And that's when he actually shot him and defended himself. And I don't know.
Yeah, there was a pause there.
I don't know if it was a legit pause or what, but it really truly appears that this guy, the 17-year-old kid, saw, okay, he's pausing, he's stopping, he's not a threat, and then chose not to shoot him until he again became a threat, which was, coming, basically attacking him. Was that your take too, or am I seeing something that wasn't there? Or?
I think that certainly seems reasonable to me. It feels like he paused. He didn't just shoot the guy as soon as he saw him. He did pause, and it was only when he continued to move forward that he actually shot him. So, and of course, in a criminal sense, the district attorney has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he wasn't justified to do what he did, that what he did was criminal. That's on the prosecution to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. I think he's going to have a heck of a hard time doing that on any of them. So I think from a criminal perspective, it's going to be very expensive and very time-consuming and very, very difficult emotionally for him, but I don't think he'll be convicted of significant criminal charges. But the civil case could be very different.
I think you're right. John Correia from Active Self-Protection. Active Self-Protection will be out here in San Diego next March for a very special event for our listeners with special pricing for San Diego County Gun Owners members. Stay tuned for more details. Thank you so much, John. Check out Active Self-Protection online and on YouTube. Thanks, John.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. This is Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
folks. Welcome back to Gun Owners Radio. This is FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right, this segment is sponsored by the Gun Range San Diego, the best shop and range in town, hands down. Are you a new gun owner, an experienced gun owner, or somewhere in between? Check out the Gun Range San Diego on Balboa. Great customer service, fantastic staff, all the latest inventory, and they are so nice. I call them the Nordstroms of gun ranges, just not the Nordstrom price. All about service. Open Sunday through Thursday, 10 to 7, 10 to 10s on Friday and Saturday, so give them a call at 858-573-1911 or go to thegunrangesandiego.com. All right, who we got now on the line?
On the line, we have Joe Green. Joe Green is a San Diego County Gun Owners endorsed candidate for City Council in Vista. He is my favorite guy on the Vista City Council, which will probably make a lot of people go, what? What about Amanda? Well, she's not a guy. So he's my favorite guy on Vista City Council. Joe, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. How you doing, man?
I'm doing real good. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much. So San Diego County Gun Owners is proud to endorse you for your re-election for City Council in Vista. How is the election going?
So far, so good. I mean, the big Labor Day push is coming up, so we got some canvassing going on the weekend of September 5th, and kind of that whole week we're going to be hitting my district. Fundraising's been going good. We got signs out in all private property. Know that your First Amendment right allows you to have a sign in your front yard. Don't let them tell you different. So, painting the town green, trying to get a little buzz out there, and the endorsements are rolling in, which is good for the campaign.
Nice. So how long have you been on the city council now?
I was elected in 2016 to city council.
Nice. And what's your what's the one thing you've done on city council that you're most proud of?
I think the biggest thing is just improving communication. Initially before I was elected, I served my community as a parent volunteer in several different capacities, actually PTA president of a couple schools in the entire district. And the city council initially was just a little out of touch with the community, not really showing up to events and things. And I think since I've got on the council, we've improved our social media presence, improved our response times. There's an app, actually, that Amanda, who you spoke of on the intro, helps with, called the Connect Vista Access Vista app. And, really just getting more community input in the governing process, which I think allows us to, keep away from the community being outraged when things happen, because we keep them informed of what's going on. So it's been real positive.
Well, I think the last 5-6 months have probably been the most interesting political months, since the Civil War. I mean, I'm almost not kidding about that. It's probably, this COVID-19 thing and all the restrictions have been the biggest event to happen in my lifetime when it comes to politics and economics and, public health. I mean, it's an enormous thing. Talk to us. What give us a little bit of your impressions of being a city council member in Vista during COVID-19.
Yeah, it's been a lot, man. Socially and economically, as you know, there's just a ton going on. So, initially we had to prepare for the economic hit of not receiving the tax, revenue that we were going to receive, and, what type of employees are essentials, who's going to be coming back to work, who's not going to be coming back to work. So, as elected officials going over, 52 different budgets, a lot of different tough calls to make, and finding out where the money's going to come from to keep the city rolling. So, initially from a council perspective, it was a numbers thing. And now it's more of a, social issue where we're trying to just make sure the community knows that we see what's going on socially across the country, and that your city council here is to support you and make sure that you feel safe in our communities. And, we're here to listen, we're here to talk, and here to do all we can to keep our community safe. And, just let them know that we have a lot of resources here in Vista, regardless of what you're going through, that we can plug you into. So it's actually been, as far as the last 4 years goes, this last, 6 months have probably been the busiest. People are staying home, they're online, they're getting more information, and they're calling, they're emailing, they're texting, and really looking for their elected officials to step up and be present and be a part of this. And something I try really hard to do is be there in the situation, in the moment with my community. So it's been a lot of of work, but it's been great.
Well, I don't think a lot of people know this, but back when we, San Diego County Gun Owners, were trying to get CCWs issued in San Diego County, you were very supportive of the idea of issuing CCWs. You took the subject very seriously. You researched it, spoke to some of your trusted advisors, and were more than happy to meet with me and talk with me about it. There was even some discussion of the possibility of Vista figuring out a way to issue if the county sheriff wouldn't. Fortunately, the county sheriff did change his policies, and now we've gone from about 1,100 CCWs to over 4,200 CCWs in just about 3 years. So how do you think that's going? And tell us what your thoughts are on the change of policy.
I think the change of policy is great. I mean, we sat down in 2016 when I got elected, and you voiced your frustrations. And I think the organization was, a little newer at the time too. But over the last 4 years, the changes have been amazing, especially with all the laws that we have in California to kind of have San Diego be a beacon of light in the CCW world. I think it's a big deal. As elected officials, we take an oath of office to defend the Constitution, and your Second Amendment right is that Constitution, that document that we swear to protect. So when they start infringing on your rights, that clearly it says they shall not be infringed upon, which I think California has infringed upon them more than any other state in the union. Yeah. I want to make sure that as an elected official that I'm there to basically do my job. I mean, that's the pledge that I take when I'm elected. So I was proud to stand next to you guys. I mean, been married for 22 years. I got 4 kids. And, when it comes to, where we live in America and the rights the Constitution gives us, it's a big thing to protect them and fight for them. So I always got your back, San Diego County Gun Owners. You can guarantee that. So
Joe started laughing when you said that elected officials take an oath to defend the Constitution. He couldn't contain himself.
Whoa,
Joe Germisi. No, not Joe Green. Joe Germisi here in the studio started laughing.
Yeah, and I'm saying that may not be true for you, Joe, but it's true for many, many of your colleagues. It's a shame.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, that's it's an oath I don't take lightly. I know the document. I know what I swear to do. I know what I swear to protect. And, when those two contradict each other, I go with the one that was, written September 25th, 1789, ratified December 15th, 1791, my friend. So that's the document that supersedes them, in my opinion.
Well, Joe, how can people find you and help you?
Oh, man, JoeGreen2020.com. Super easy, JoeGreen2020.com. You can go on my website. You can donate there. You can hear what I'm about. You can always contact me, too, JoeGreen@cityofvista.com. Any questions any of my community members have for me. But more than anything, just appreciate the support, appreciate all that you guys are doing for the gun owners community. And if there's ever anything I can do to be an advocate for you or my city can do, know that we're here and we're available, okay?
Thanks, Joe.
All right, buddy, you're the best. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We still got another hour in the box. This is FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of Gun Owners Radio with your hosts, Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz. Visit gunownersradio.com with your questions and comments, or to learn how to become a sponsor of the show. Time to get involved and get active. Together, we will win. Now here's Dave, Joe, and Michael on The Answer San Diego.
All right, folks, welcome back. This is Gun Owners Radio on FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
Hey, well, self-defense and emergencies can happen to anyone. And unfortunately, the justice system just may not be on your side. While you protect your family and property, U.S. Law Shield is here to defend you 24/7, 365 days a year with comprehensive self-defense coverage at an affordable price. Bad guys don't take days off, and neither does U.S. Law Shield. Get a plan from U.S. Law Shield. Check them out today at uslawshield.com. All right, we got Joe Germisi, our gear guy, in the house, and he's going to review his second scope from the good folks at Blackhound. This is a 4x14 44 mil rifle scope. You want to introduce your two partners?
I sure will. So we had so much fun last week looking at the 1x8 scope that the great people at Blackhound gave to us to take a look at. We thought we'd do it again this week with a different one of their scopes, a 4x14 by 44 mil scope. And we've got Rick Nair and Jim Peterson from Blackhound here with us. So you guys there?
We are.
Sure am.
Having us on.
All right. So welcome back, guys.
And by the way, he listened to you guys because he didn't bring the gun. He brought the box.
That's right. So for this scope, we'll start right from the box. We'll do kind of a little unboxing thing. Talk about all the stuff that's in there, point some great stuff out here, and then we'll go into probably the second half. We'll talk about what we found out at the range.
We need a drum roll or something.
So
open the box.
For people that can see this anyway, great box here. So pull this open, and you can see the great thing about this too. One of the great things, a number of great things here, but one of the great things is you get everything you need to put the scope on basically and go with it. So I'll show you the other stuff first. Got a little cleaning tool here. You get a sun shield with it as well, and we have a zero adjust kit here, which we'll talk about, or a zero stop kit. You get the rings, which we'll pull out of here. So you have the mounting rings that come with this. And this is a good deal, too, because a lot of times, you don't get that kind of stuff with the scope. And the price is really great on the. I mean, this is a tremendous value for this when you see this scope. And it's a $299 scope.
Wow.
You get the rings, and you get we have two little levels as well that come with it. So you got everything you need to install it. So now that we talked about all that stuff, we'll pull the scope out of here, and really, really nice scope. And like I said, the value for this thing is just tremendous.
And you know that box, you could actually store that if you didn't, for whatever reason, if you took it off your rifle.
I think lots of people like the box. Isn't that true, Jim? You say that?
Oh yeah, it's almost like when you buy an iPhone, you keep that box around for years.
Why do we do that? Why do we? I found 3 of them the other day. Why do we do that?
I think there's a sense of quality to it. That you kind of feel bad throwing it away.
Okay, so if we
our box is better than the iPhone box.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt.
So if you take a look, here's the scope, and you've got the 2 end caps here to protect the lenses. So it's a 4x14 scope. It's got a 44 millimeter objective lens up in the front. You can see the controls here, and we have the elevation control on the top, or you've got the windage, or elevation control on the top, the mil windage on the side. And these things are in mil ratings. If you guys listened last week, the scope we looked at last week was an MOA scope. This is a MILRAD scope, and Jim or Rick, you guys want to jump in and just maybe explain the difference, why you went with that on this scope?
Yeah, so we offer our higher magnification scopes in both MOA and MIL, and it honestly really boils down to personal preference. It's just 2 different ways to measure the exact same thing. One MOA is approximately 1.047 inches at 100 yards, and 1 mil is 3.6 inches at 100 yards. So you're measuring the same thing. It's just a little bit different way to go about it. If you're a new shooter and you haven't had any experience with either, it honestly really doesn't matter. It's totally just a personal preference.
Yeah, and I think a lot of guys too, being in America here, we're more familiar with the MOA type system. Where you've got one MOA is 1 inch of movement basically at 100 yards.
What's MOA stand for?
It's a moment of angle or minute of angle.
Minute of angle, yeah.
And with the MIL system, what is it? The MIL system splits that up at what? It's 1 mil is 1/1000th of the distance. Is that how that goes?
So 1 mil equals 3.6 inches at 100 yards. So if you go to 1,000 yards, that's 36 inches.
Right. It's going to be it's going to be different. So it's always going to be 1/1000th.
1/10. on the adjustments, and then typically 1/4, or ours are 1/2 MOA on the MOA version. So you're basically doing the same thing, just a little bit different way of measuring it.
Yeah, I think people here in this country are used to doing the math in their head maybe a little bit, and it's easier for them with the English system. But beautiful adjustments, though.
Definitely more popular.
And so we had that. So we had the windage, the elevation adjustment. The other neat thing on this scope, too, is a parallax adjustment, which is here on the left side. And, if you guys wanted to talk a little bit about that and what that is and why you have that on the scope.
Yeah, so the parallax allows you to adjust for different distances. Ours goes from as low as 10 yards to infinity. So a lot of scopes only adjust down to about 25 yards. Our scope, you can adjust all the way down to 10, and you can actually get a good focus at a pretty high magnification on that scope, even less than 10 yards. So it gives you the ability to get a higher magnification and a clear view of your target based on the distance.
Yeah, and what that does practically too is it puts the reticle right on the target. So you adjust that parallel or that parallax so that for different distances, if you move your eye around on the scope, the reticle stays right on the target. It doesn't move around with your head. Is that right? I know that's right, but
yeah,
but that's the idea with it. And I know when we were at the range on Wednesday shooting this, there were a number of older guys there that are big rifle guys, and they thought that was a really great feature on this scope. They were saying this was, for this kind of scope, they were talking about using it on like a .22 precision rifle. They're saying a lot of guys that do the precision rifle shooting will tend to practice with the smaller calibers, the .22s, and dialing the thing out to 200 yards or 300 yards on that. The scope would be ideal for that. And they thought that that parallax feature was a really good feature on here.
So what you're saying is you could have sold about 6 of them while you were out there.
I think I could have. Was it Rick? Were you the one that was saying you had this on your Ruger? Is that right?
Yeah, I have it on a Ruger Precision 22, and 14 power is obviously a little bit over scope for a 22 caliber rifle.
Right.
But it is very nice on that rifle.
Interesting.
And again, so on here on the parallax side, there was also an illumination on this end as well, and just like the other scope that we looked at here last week, I mean, this the scope works really well. It functioned really well. We put it on an AR, this time a different AR than we did last time, but it shot really well. It's really easy to use, and the reticle is just beautiful in here. It's just really easy to see. The illumination works great on it. Just really overall, just a nice scope, just a fun scope.
Hey, I've got a Ruger 1022.
There you go.
I bet it'll fit. What do you think?
We might have somebody to hook you up.
I think so. Yeah. What's that guy's called? It's a dog something or other. No.
Yeah.
We know a guy.
Yeah, I know a guy. All right. Hey, we're going to take a break. You guys are going to hang here with us because when we come back, I have no idea what Joe's going to talk about, but he does.
Oh, I got more stuff.
He's got tons. All right, folks, don't you touch that dial. This is Gun Owners Radio on FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
There's more Gun Owners Radio with Dave, Joe, and Michael to come on The Answer San Diego.
All right, folks, welcome back to Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right, folks, let me change my page here. Hey, PRMI Mortgage, PRMIRes.com/Alpine to be exact. Home mortgage interest rates have dropped, and if you are looking to buy or refi, or if you're considering a reverse mortgage, you need to call our local mortgage guy that you can truly trust. That's Chris Wiley at PRMI Mortgage. For nearly 25 years, Chris has been helping local San Diegans with all their mortgage needs. Give Chris a call at 722-1303, or just go to primeres.com/Alpine. All right, we're back with our guests from Blackhound. Take it away, Joe.
Okay, so what we did on Wednesday, we took the scope out to the range.
Wait, which scope is it again?
And it's the Blackhound 4x14 by 44 mil type scope. So that's what we have here. And took it out to the range and mounted it on an AR style rifle and shot it for a while. And like I was saying, it was just fantastic. It just works really well. And
were there any negatives? Was there anything about this scope that you would like to tell these two guys maybe you ought to take a look at fixing?
Yeah, there were a couple of things that we found like that. Again, not a big deal, but one of the things is I showed you a little bit earlier when we unboxed this. You have the zero stop kit. Mm-hmm. And what this is on scopes, what you can do is you adjust the elevation range for different ranges. And say you zero this in at 100 yards. Mm-hmm. What you can do is you can install the zero stop kit. It's a little ring, and you take off the cap here and take the cap off. There's a screw inside. You put the ring in, you screw it back down. And what it'll do is it'll lock it in at that zero at 100 yards. Then if you dial the scope out and you're shooting at 300 yards, 500 yards, you can dial it back down and it will stop exactly at that zero at 100 yards. So you can come back to the zero basically.
Okay.
And what we found was it worked well. It was easy to put in there. We found it was a little bit kind of mushy when you came all the way back to the zero. It wasn't a hard stop click. You know, it didn't stop solidly. It kind of moved a little bit past. So did you guys want to talk about that a little bit, Jim? Because I know Jim and Rick, we talked about it yesterday.
So so we kind of looked at those a little bit, and what we found is the set screws that come on that disc, sometimes when they come out of the factory, they're actually protruding into the diameter of the disc. So if you screw that down, you may not actually be able to screw it all the way down because of that. And then if you tighten the screws, you've still got a little bit of play. So, and that's one thing as we revise our operator's manual, we're going to put in there to make sure that those screws are backed off.
Okay, great.
You can actually bottom that disc out and then tighten them, and then you're good to go. So we played around with a couple of scopes just to kind of double check that. And once you do that, once it's completely bottomed out, you're good to go. You can dial it up, dial it right back. It stops right at zero. You're set.
And I will mention too, Joe, that the scope that you have is one of our samples, you know, that Rick had on hand.
Uh-huh.
I went through this afternoon. I went through about a half a dozen of mine that I have here. I keep a supply at the house for some strange reason. But so the only one that I had a little bit of trouble with that was an open box sample. So it could very well have been, you know, that disc that you had, we've had it on and off a couple times, whatever, and the screws might have drug a little bit.
Gotcha.
But if anybody has any trouble with that, you know, in the future, you know, we have that ironclad guarantee. You know, we'll take care of anything we need to make it right.
Yeah, see, and that's so good because you could have made 12 excuses. Joe didn't know what he was doing. You know, he was.
I was going to throw that one in.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, and that's why we had you on the show is because not only do you stand behind your product with one of the best warranties out there, and trust me, guys, if that's all Joe could find, job well done.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, it was just a great scope. We had that minor thing. The other minor thing that we ran into is we mounted the scope on like we were saying an AR type platform, and the mounting rings were a little bit short for the AR. We had to pull off the rear iron sight on the AR to get the scope on. And again, there's different heights for these things. And I think when I was talking to you guys, you actually offer an option with a higher mounting thing. Was that right?
Yeah. We the scope you had last week, that 1-8, had that one-piece cantilever mount.
Right.
We make those also for that chassis on the 4-14. So that if you're putting it on an AR, that's typically the type of mount most people would use. And you can just request that when you go to place your order, just put it in the notes. and we can include that mount instead. And the other thing also is, we put the rings or the mounts in there. They're complementary. For 85-90% of our customers, they do the job. So it's if we start offering like a million different options.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna change our model.
You got a lot in this box. Let me tell you. I mean, there's not anything in that box. I mean, it's definitely got, if nothing else, more than probably what most people would need.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's a great value, and everybody that saw this when we were at the range was really impressed with it. So, it's definitely a great product. And Jim, you had something that you'd mentioned yesterday, a little something for our listeners here that you might want to talk about.
Yes, I believe I know what we're talking about.
Well, let's see.
After the show last week, are we talking about the coupon code?
We are.
Okay. After the show last week, we were so impressed with Not Me SD that we decided that for your listeners, they go to the blackhoundoptics.com website, drop anything they want into the shopping cart, and when you go to view cart, at the bottom, there's a little box to type in a coupon code. Your listeners just have to type in Not Me SD, and we're going to give them a discount on the scope, and then 30% of that sale price we're going to donate to the Not Me SD.
Hey, that's awesome.
Fantastic. That is awesome,
That
guys.
is very cool. Thank you. Very generous and thoughtful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's a great cause. There's nothing worse than knowing you could help somebody in that kind of situation and not stepping up.
Yeah. That's huge. That's huge. All right. So anything, you got some more?
So I can come up with some more if you want more.
No, let's. I mean, you've been loving this thing. I mean,
I enjoyed this. I tell you, it was fun evaluating these scopes. Rick and Jim are just great. I mean, what a just cool company to
the thing about
do this.
Rick, Jim, I mean, here's the thing that's important as well. So you get somebody here, a brand new gun owner, okay, and they get the box, and there's a lot of things. That's why I always jump in and say, what does that stand for, and what does this stand for? And I think you guys are readily available for the consumer to contact you either by email or by phone to actually have a conversation with you if they have questions on any of your products.
Absolutely.
That's true. We've routinely had, we'll get an email drop in. We've had them as late as 11:30 at night. And if we're awake and it comes in, we'll answer it right then at 11:30.
Sure.
I don't want to start telling everybody to start calling me on Sunday, middle of the day, but we do try and get back. And during the week, we typically will respond in less than a minute to our chat window or to an email.
Right. And I only threw that out there because product is great, customer service is king. Because you can have the best product on the planet, but if you don't have that service behind it, it's worthless.
Right.
And that's probably why you guys are successful, right?
Well, we'd like to think so. That, and like I said, you have a great product, you have a great guarantee,
right? And
you take care of your customers, you do the right thing. I don't know what else you can do besides that.
Yeah, I came from the service industry. Cars in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And if you want to learn customer service, that's when you want to learn customer service. Because that product was terrible.
So, Jim, what do you guys have anything new or good coming up here in the near future, scope-wise?
We just got some prototypes in. We're going to be releasing some new models towards the end of the year, maybe the beginning of the year around SHOT Show. We've got a 5-25 5x56 and a 4-32 by 56. They're going to be available in MOA or MIL, and they're going to be on that larger 34 millimeter chassis that the 1-8 was on. So that allows more light transmission, gives you a better field of view. We're going up to a 56 millimeter objective. So those two will be coming out right around the end of the year. And then we're also looking at some pistol reflex sights that we're going to be releasing shortly after that.
How do you guys decide? I've always kind of wondered this. There's a lot of different, powers. And that's how do you guys decide on a next project? I mean, or our next product. What makes you decide? Well, we need this power and this. How's that decision made?
Usually, I have a couple of cocktails, start throwing darts at the board. No. I believe I told you last time we surveyed 13,000 U.S. shooters, and we got that data. And then now that we've been selling what we have, we take things like this, like what Joe just said. When you're talking to us, if we make a decision, we can start moving on it right away. We don't have a big corporate board and all these things to go through. So the feedback we've got from our customers, I wish it had this, I wish it had that.
Right.
Wouldn't this be nice? And we catalog all those. A lot of times people think it doesn't do any good to tell them,
right,
or to just talk about something I'd like to have. We have exhaustive databases of this stuff. Every phone call, what was it? We make notes. What was it about? And then that drives us towards what the next product should be.
So I need to ask one question. Any other color besides black? Yeah, I mean, you're kind of Henry Ford, really.
You can get them any color you want as long as it's black.
I couldn't help myself.
Four colors: black.
Yeah, we are getting ready to. We're working with some factory certified Cerakote guys where we're not going to offer it.
Right.
In those colors, but we're going to be able to recommend you to some places, and we'll probably put out a little video on how to Cerakote it. Because some guys do, they want to make it camo if they're hunting or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I just thinking out loud, but that I knew that would be a great answer. So, all right, guys. Well, hey, we cannot thank you enough for not only helping out the website, and that was Michael. What was that again? The Me Too?
Yeah, not me. Not me SD.
Not me SD.
That's a whole different movement.
That's a whole different movement. So we want to thank you for that. Give your website out one more time.
It's blackhoundoptics.com, and that coupon code in your shopping cart is not me SD.
All right. And if somebody doesn't have a computer, do you have a phone number?
No. Gee whiz. Yeah, I do. Hold on. I never.
He does that to me all the time. So.
It's 770-910-7749, or they can email me, Jim@blackhoundoptics.com.
Yeah, or me as well at Rick@blackhoundoptics.com. Easy.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you very much. You enjoy the rest of your week. We'll be talking to you down the road.
Yeah, we'll see you at Gun Prom.
Thank you, guys.
All right, this is FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
Welcome back to Gun Owners Radio, educating you on your Second Amendment right. Now, here are your hosts of Gun Owners Radio, Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz on The Answer San Diego.
All right, folks, welcome back to Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
Hey, folks, thousands of new gun buyers just found out what San Diego gun owners already knew. A.O. Sword Firearms in El Cajon has the widest selection of guns in the county. Hundreds of new and used guns in stock, and everything you could want for an AR-15. A.O. Sword is also a professional gunsmith with a full machine shop for cleaning, repairs, upgrading, and customization. Check out A.O. Sword on Facebook or just go to aosword.com. Now we have our firearms technical expert on the line, Mr. David Chong. How you doing, buddy?
It's a good day.
Isn't it, though? Yeah. What? Not too hot.
Heat wave is passing.
Yeah. But don't look now. It's coming back next week, but that's another story.
Oh, son of a gun.
Right.
Well, I want to follow on the heels of your last segment. I'll tell you, A.O. Sword has Cerakoted well over 100 scopes, and it's a rarer for a Cerakoter to be able to do that and change color on a black scope into whatever you want, including camouflage, because they really have to know what they're doing. On the prep side, man, you definitely don't want to media blast any of the glass or the control surfaces. And then on the cure side, you really don't want to bake these things because they're nitrogen filled, sealed. You can differentiate the pressure differential can break something inside. So you use air cure Cerakote, and that requires a completely different mix and a little bit different prep.
So
we sure do that.
So what you're basically saying, this is not something Michael should be doing.
Yeah, not a homebrew thing, absolutely. And for, I'll even say for folks out there who maybe do Cerakote on the side or something like that, do not bake your scopes. You want to use your air cure Cerakote. Take it to a professional. There's so much involved, and you want that to be right.
So I know I don't want to pinpoint you to a specific price, but what's kind of the range that you'd be looking at, say, to Cerakote scope?
Sure. It's kind of based on size and complexity, and then with scopes. So something the size of a scope is about an $80 job.
Gosh, that's not bad at all.
The problem is in the prep.
Right.
They take a lot of masking and preparation. So you're probably looking at between a half hour and an hour of extra prep for masking, depending on what you want to do there. So our hourly rate, $75. So between $35 and $75 for your prep, plus your $70, $80 fee, and so under $150, and you got to scope the color you want it.
Well, then that's more than reasonable, I think. What do you think, Joe?
No, I think it's great. Actually, I was surprised it was that little.
Well, I know I kind of was too, but I know
not that it was David or anything.
No. But I mean, you
surprised me you could do it that.
But
cheaply.
you got to ask the expert. But I have a sneaky feeling if you shopped around, you're going to find out David is a little bit more reasonable than a lot of other people. I got a funny feeling. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, thank you. I just like I talked about last week, I want long-term customers, not one-shot gouging, and that's why we're still selling our guns at MSRP.
Yeah.
At a time when Glocks are going for $850.
So how are you doing with inventory?
All right. I want to talk about a new piece that I got in. It is very rare that we get to talk about a new handgun on the California roster of safe handguns. I can't remember the last time we did talk about that, because if you look at the California Department of Justice's list of recently decertified guns, it's about 100 long. And if you click on the other link that says Department of Justice recently certified handguns for sale, there's one gun on it, and that is the Colt Python. No kidding. Colt managed to get the Python back on the roster, and so it is available for sale in California from a dealer. You can transfer it in from out of state, whatever. They have been making a new version of the classic Colt Python since SHOT Show last year, and man, these things have been very, very popular. You may know that I am a wheel gun enthusiast. I have a very large collection of Smith & Wessons and Colts, and so I really appreciate the industrial art that is embodied in a quality revolver.
This thing is beautiful. Holy moly.
Are you looking it up? Yeah.
Heck yeah.
It's got the bright polished stainless finish, which used to be a premium, and now it's standard. It does preserve the classic lines of the extremely popular Colt Python. You guys know why Colt Pythons became so popular, right?
Wow. Go ahead and tell us.
Yes. Well, for the I'll sidestep. Back in the 80s, Mr. Dirty Harry.
I knew it.
Yeah, he had a Smith & Wesson, but for modern times, it's Mr. Rick Grimes, former sheriff of the Walking Dead world, and he's got a trusty stainless Colt Python. And so once Walking Dead came out, I think it was 2010, Pythons, which were already very collectible because they've been discontinued for a while, they started trading at over $3,000 for not even a mint condition one, just a good solid, still got most of the finish left on it. Python would run you about $3,000. These new production Pythons available for sale at our shop. Right now, you can get them in 4 1/4 inch, and they have already submitted and are working on approval for the 6-inch model. They have a slightly revised mechanism and action. The new, I think the most significant change is it uses about half as many moving parts. And that sounds like simpler and cheaper. That's not actually the case. They improved on the Legend and made the double action far, far better. I'm going to tell you, the old Python, which had it really was well known for single action break. That trigger on the single action where you cock the hammer and then squeeze off the round. Those averaged about 4 pounds. So just a beautiful, crisp, one of the best single action ever made. But the old double action where you press the trigger all the way through to cock the hammer and then break, the old Pythons had about a 9 to 12 pound trigger. The new ones are coming out at about 7 or 8 pounds. And more importantly, they don't have a big hump at the end right before the hammer falls. It's just smooth as glass all the way through, and then boop, off goes the round. So it's very predictable. Frankly, it's more accurate. I would tell you as a collector, the only double action revolver trigger pull that I have that beats the new Python is my old Smith & Wesson registered Magnum. If you were to try and buy that beauty, she'd be about $15,000.
Wow. So here in California, for every gun that goes on the roster, 3 have to come off?
They're trying to pass that law. I haven't heard that it has passed yet.
Oh.
But, that was in committee last I heard, but had not yet been.
I thought it was already.
Yeah,
that's been proposed, right? But there's nothing to stop it.
Yeah, it's going to get passed. It just hadn't happened
It'll
yet,
probably get passed. Yep.
Sure. Welcome to California.
So the Python, before we stop talking about the Python and the Anaconda, and I thought there was one other snaky Colt.
There is the King Cobra.
Yeah, and the King Cobra.
King Cobra, and the Python. So you're looking at a Cobra is a 38 Special, King Cobra is the 357 Magnum, and of course the Python is frankly the higher quality 357 Magnum.
And the Anaconda was a 44?
Yes, that is correct.
So what's with all these snake names?
Well,
that was their deal. Their Colt's wheel gun production was all named after snakes.
Interesting.
And when did they discontinue those? Like early 90s?
Yeah. Well, it went over a span of years, but between the late 80s and early 90s, yes.
I thought that was just I think Colt's made a lot of mistakes, but business. I don't know. I didn't see the budgets and the charts and whatever, but it seemed like it was an enormous mistake to discontinue those lines. I don't even remember. Were they replaced by something, or did they just stop making them?
Not. I will tell you. There is something that's not talked about, and I don't mean to ambush our conversation too much here, but this would be a really interesting topic to talk about another time.
Okay.
Our gun manufacturers are being kidnapped, hijacked, absconded with by predatory investment groups that run them into the ground. We are losing Remington.
I heard about
Colt
that.
Got run into the ground. Smith & Wesson's been a little bit better off because they're more closely held, but our legacy gun manufacturers in the United States are Winchester's another example.
Yeah.
They're getting bought up by speculative investment groups, raided and pillaged for cash and assets, and then left to die. And
let's talk about that. Let's do this next week.
Let's do this next week,
David.
And then you got to add on to A.O. Sword, hire all of these people, and start making the Chong gun.
All right.
Right
all
there.
right.
You got it? All right.
Colt Python in stock. You got to come see it. Beautiful gun.
Oh, I'll probably come out and visit with you next week.
You take care, guys.
All right, you too. This is Gun Owners Radio, AM 1170, FM 96.1.
The Answer.
All right, folks, welcome back. This is Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
All right, well, welcome back, and don't forget it is thanks to our sponsors that we get to broadcast and bring you the best Second Amendment contact show in the nation. Trust me. So please, right now, check out the website of Attorney John Dillon, U.S. Law Shield, Firearms Legal Protection, the Gun Range San Diego, on Balboa that is, A.O. Sword in El Cajon, PRMI Mortgage, and get yourself a Cali key. And if you need to find out more info on our sponsors, go to gunownersradio.com. All right, this is by far our most popular segment every week. You write in and ask a question of Sam the Gunman, and if we use your gun trivia question, we will send you a San Diego County Gun Owner shirt, which has scientifically been proven to improve your marksmanship and slow down the sweat.
It's true.
And if you stump Sam, then we will send you a shirt and a hat. And without further ado, Sam the Gunman.
Ooh. Ah.
What's going on, son?
Not much. How are you guys?
Living the dream. How about you?
I can't complain.
Nope. Doesn't do any good. No one's listening.
Yeah.
All right.
Here
Sam
it
the
comes.
Gunman. Stump my nephew. Okay, so Lauren from Coronado writes in and says, when shooting at targets that are uphill or downhill from you, you should aim.
Oh, that's the question?
That's the question. When shooting at targets that are uphill or downhill from you, you should aim.
I would say it depends on the distance and, of course, the ballistics of the ammunition you're using. That's probably not the answer she gave, but if you look, unless it's a huge difference.
Let me ask you this. So she's looking for, should you aim higher or lower or the exact same?
And she doesn't have the answer. You do.
Well, no,
Okay.
she's got the answer.
I would say in most cases, generally speaking, you should aim in pretty much the same spot, because unless there's a huge difference in elevation and you're at relatively long distance, it really will not make much of a difference.
Unfortunately, this week we stumped you. The answer is, and this is, I didn't know this at all, but I had to look it up, and I had to kind of figure out the question here. But the answer is that when you're shooting at targets that are uphill or downhill from you, you actually aim low both. So whether they're uphill from you or downhill from you, you're actually going to aim a little bit low. The closer you get to vertical, either up or down, the less gravity the trajectory of the bullet has, so you hold low either way. And I actually looked it up here. It says, one resource here says...
Yeah, where did you get your source?
There's a physical ballistic problem encountered when shooting at angles that causes the bullet's point of impact to hit high. The solution, aim lower. The article, How to Compensate for Uphill Downhill Shooting by firearmsite.com states that when shooting uphill, you have to hold your sights below the target in order to hit the target. A similar effect occurs when shooting downhill. To compensate for shooting downhill, you must also aim below the target. Isn't that interesting?
Huh. I never really thought about that.
Well,
I guess I would have to sit down with a pen and paper and work out the trigonometry.
Only you would do that, because we wouldn't have a clue.
I didn't know that.
Someone else did.
Somebody else, Lauren from Coronado, knew. But I think that's a pretty interesting little factoid there.
I think so too. And now you have another one in your quiver.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, I guess.
I guess. Oh, look, now he's depressed.
No, now I feel
See what you did? You hit your nephew's feelings.
Well, someone out there is getting Lauren is getting a very fashionable hat.
And shirt.
Yeah, and shirt.
Yeah, that's no kidding. Well, it's funny. We had David Chong on before you. And Michael was asking him all kinds of questions. So I'm thinking, that one's for Sam. That one's for Sam. That one's for Sam.
Well, I from what I understand, we missed one of the snake guns. Which one did we miss?
You mentioned I did catch part of that segment. You mentioned the Cobra, the Python, and the Anaconda. The Cobra has, and the King Cobra. The Cobra has a few different variants, including the Night Cobra, which is their sort of concealed carry version. It has a bobbed hammer and whatnot.
Oh, is that one of those hammerless? Is that what you're talking about, where it's a concealed?
Well, no. It actually still has an external hammer. It just doesn't have a spur on the hammer. So if you can imagine like the back of a double-action only hammer-fired pistol, it looks kind of like that.
Gotcha.
The Night Cobra, at least the ones that I've seen, also have shorter barrels, and they have a black finish like a Smith & Wesson 442.
What caliber are they?
38.
38.
So the Python is they recently started issuing those. Are you guys selling a lot of those? Are you seeing a lot of interest?
It's funny. Whenever there's a big new product announcement like that, and I'm talking every single time, we get a huge wave of interest. Like when the Hellcat was announced, we had 6 people come in the day after asking, "Do you have that yet? Do you have that yet?" Because they apparently don't realize that it takes months and months for them to even start shipping. And the same thing happened with the Python. Now that we've actually got one of them in stock, and it's a 6-inch model, all the interest has suddenly vanished. But more for us, I guess, because it's a lot of fun to handle in the store. It's a really smooth gun.
I bet.
That's the Colt Python in
6-inch
357.
Yep, 6-inch 357 Magnum. The double action pull, really all of the mechanics, especially the double action pull, feel like rubbing 2 wet bars of soap together.
Okay, now I got to go home and try that. That I have not done before.
Wow. I got to tell you, my dream gun, I don't think I've talked about this. My dream gun from when I was a kid is a Colt Anaconda in 44 Magnum, because the first pellet gun I ever bought was a copy of the
of that gun.
Oh yeah, and I loved it, and it was fun, and so now I just want one for, it's all nostalgia, right?
Save your money.
Yeah. Well, so an Anaconda, Sam, how much is an Anaconda? $3,000-$4,000?
I don't know. I haven't looked them up. I haven't seen them for sale.
So they're not in production anymore. They're all used. And
that's going to be a fortune.
Yeah, you're looking at least $3,000, and it's a revolver. Yeah. I mean, it's nothing complicated or fancy. But that's why I say, and we're going to talk about it next week with David Chong. We're going to talk about the firearms industry and some of the business mistakes they've made. But I really, that's why I say it's a big mistake that Colt made, is discontinuing some of these really popular revolvers. So,
it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were asking earlier what they replaced the Python with. Well, Colt really banked their fortunes on their AR-15 line before everyone else realized that they could make the same thing at a lower price. So you could say they replaced the Python with the 6920.
No. Well, okay.
Yeah, there you go. All right, buddy. Always good talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on, as always.
All right, we'll look forward to talking to you next week. Sam the Gunman, folks. All right. Hey, folks, for all you podcast listeners, you need to make sure to listen to the first hour of this podcast. The second will be up shortly. And please, please support all our great sponsors. The Gun Range San Diego at thegunrangesandiego.com. Firearms Legal Protection at firearmslegal.com. San Diego County Gun Owners at SDCGO.org. $10. What an investment. U.S. Law Shield at uslawshield.com. Cali Key at KALIKEY.com. PRMI Mortgage at PRMIERES, which is primeres.com/alpine.com. The Dillon Law Group at DillonLawGP.com. A.O. Sword Firearms store at aosword.com. If you're in any of those stores, please thank them profusely for supporting this 2-hour radio show, because without it, you will never stay in touch and stay up to date as to what's going on in the Second Amendment. And I really want to thank Michael Schwartz, Joe Germisi, Sam the Gunman, the Digital Master, Brendan Thomas, and we got a new guy in the room. We got our good buddy
Big Rich.
Big Rich is in the room. And we will have the audio fixed next week, so do not despair. And we also have a photographer in here as well. We want to give her a little bit of love.
Yeah, Melissa. Well, everybody knows Melissa.
Yeah, so thank you, Melissa. You did a wonderful job. She's melting away in the corner.
She heads up our social media department at San Diego.
She does a phenomenal job. So, hey, folks, go to gunownersradio.com for podcasts, up-to-date information. And if you want to reach out and you have a question or a concern, feel free to do so.
Yeah, can't tell you how important it is to support sponsors. Everybody wants to know, what can I do to support the Second Amendment right here in San Diego?
This is a great idea.
And usually what they mean is, what can I do that's super easy, that doesn't take a lot of work to support the Second Amendment in San Diego?
Yeah. And it could be fun.
The answer is go support our sponsors. Go in, tell them you listen to Gun Owners Radio, let them know you're thankful, and then buy something from them. Check out their website. Just clicking on the website helps.
Blackhound.optics.com.
So close. Blackhound.
Well, I knew there was a dog in there.
Little Led Zeppelin reference.
Yeah, blackhoundoptics.com. Buy anything, and you click on the coupon code, and it is...
Not me SD for the coupon code.
All right, that's a great discount. 30% will be donated to that organization. All right, we're going to be back next week with a whole lot more. Tons of information coming up. Go take care of our sponsors. This is FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
Gun Owners Radio, fighting to preserve and restore your Second Amendment right. Learn more about Gun Owners Radio and how to become a guest or sponsor by visiting gunownersradio.com. Join Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz every week at this same time as they talk guns and Second Amendment rights. Have fun while staying informed and getting involved. This has been Gun Owners Radio on The Answer San Diego. This program is sponsored by Dave Stahl.